Welcome back to the Bro Show, BroThrow's official YouTube picks show. Chad, we are back. It is NFL Week 5, quarter of the way through the season, and so far we've been a little bit colder than we want to be, highlighted by last week's not so great picks. But you know what? Like a quarterback throwing an interception, we're moving forward. We're moving on to this week, and it starts off the Giants headed to Seattle, -6 for the Seahawks, and that's what I'm taking for this week. You know, the Seahawks offense has looked very, very good this season. Geno Smith has been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, certainly statistically. And the Giants, you know, I just think they're kind of falling off, right? Like, you know, their offense has been a little bit better. Like Daniel Jones being compared to the rest of the quarterbacks doesn't look as bad. But still, like this is a team that can't really run the ball all that well. And now Malik Neighbors just got a concussion in his last game. He may not play in this game. If he does, he may not be 100%. And with the Giants' defensive struggles, their cornerbacks are still very injured. I think that Seattle's offense is going to be way too much for them to handle. You know, this is a team that in the Monday night game against Detroit had no issues moving the ball. It was really just their defense that was preventing them from winning. And I see their defense being able to get stops against the Giants. So I feel really, really good about Seattle at home, even giving up a touchdown. I know that big favorites have not really been covering so much in the NFL this year, but I think that it's starting to be time that we can ride the big favorites, especially with a team as good at offense as the Seahawks. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker. I mean, they got studs all over the field. And with how Geno's playing, I got to ride them here at home against the Giants.
Like you said, these large favorites just have been getting crushed to start the season. But I think it's probably time for a correction. That can't last for forever. And I think this is a good spot. My new theme going forward for the rest of the season is I'm playing system plays only. Last week I faded myself a couple times. Thought I would get cute. Thought I'd get ahead of the curve, but this one's kind of right on the money, or right on the number rather. And but if I was going to pick one this week, I think I do like Seattle -6. Like you mentioned, Seattle's 3-1, playing at home. They got the 12th man at their back this week. The Giants are 1-3, but the Giants have also played some pretty solid defenses. You look at the Vikings, you look at the Browns. They've been better than we thought they would be. But like you mentioned, a huge piece of this game is going to be Malik Neighbors, who, you know, if he clears the protocol, great, but he still has to line up. Likely he's going to line up across from the first round pick for the Seattle Seahawks and Devin Witherspoon, who's been an instant upgrade to this the secondary. He's played great. He's played like an all-pro already as a rookie. So I think 6 points feels good, feels right here. Geno, like you said, has been getting going. He threw the ball like 54 times last week, 36 for 51 or 54, something like that. He's getting DK, I mean, who's my favorite receiver in the NFL, 6'4", 230 pounds, runs a 4.3, and he's mean, he's nasty. And you've got JSN, obviously great, and you got trusty Tyler Lockett, and then to back that up, you've got Kenneth Walker, who obviously appears to be healthy after that oblique injury, rushing for 3 touchdowns the other night, and so they're looking like they're picking up some steam, and I like the pick.
Well, let's move on to your first pick of the week. Carolina headed to my Chicago Bears. I was on Carolina last week. Andy Dalton could not get it done the revenge game. What do you see here for his second consecutive revenge game, taking on one of his former teams?
Well, we could probably name half the NFL at that pace, but the Bears seemed to pick up some steam last week. I liked a few more things that I saw, especially out of their defense. Swift got going. The run game got going a little bit. They also used Rashawn Johnson, which I've been waiting for. I've loved him since he was at Texas, and I really feel like he should be the starter at this point. But regardless of that, I'm still not completely sold on the Bears. You watch that film, and I did. I watched that whole game. I watched the, I forget which service it is, but you can watch every play just right in a row without any fluff in the middle. He missed a ton of targets. I mean, DJ Moore was open multiple times, overthrew him. Same thing with Odunze. So at some point, I think he's probably going to get going. Caleb Williams is, but I don't know that's going to be this week against the Panthers. Clearly Andy Dalton has been a huge upgrade for this Panthers team. And the Panthers have only really struggled against teams with solid defenses, so something the Bears just haven't gotten so far is playing really solid defenses. So I'm not sold once again on them, but I'm looking to see a lot more of Xavier Legette this weekend. Rookie from South Carolina, big body catching the ball, Deontay Johnson. And I was really kind of hoping that Jonathan Brooks would be playing this week, but it looks like he's going to be held out maybe at least one more week. But that's okay. We got Chuba Hubbard. He looks good. He's in that system. He's been there for a while. So I trust their parts here. Namely, I trust Andy Dalton, veteran, to bring home maybe even a win here. Just I think people are just going to be on the Bears after that win last week. So
I think you're giving the Bears defense a little less credit than they deserve. I mean, the defense has been not horrible to start the year. I mean, obviously, like they haven't given up more than 24 points in a single game. Actually, I don't think they've given up more than 21 points in a single game. So the defense has been overall pretty good. And the Bears have a guy named Jalen Johnson at corner, who is one of the best corners in the league. We don't really hear a lot about him, but that's because most teams just don't even throw at him, period. So he's not even getting the big stats or the big plays. But with Adam Thielen being injured, if Deontay Johnson's getting locked up by Jalen Johnson, then I would be very worried for Carolina's ability to move the ball here. Let's keep in mind the Bears have the best punter in all of football, Torrey Taylor, the rookie from Iowa, who last week sealed the game with a 74-yard bomb, pinning them inside the 10 from inside the Bears zone 20. So Bears have a lot of weapons on offense, defense, and special teams. I don't know if I agree with you here. I think I'm going to lean with my Chicago Bears here.
Okay.
All right, moving on to our next pick, Bills and Texans. Bills got absolutely destroyed by the Ravens last week. I mean, Derrick Henry was just running up and down the field, started off hot with that first play, 80-yard touchdown run, and the Ravens never really looked back. That's why I like the bounce back spot here for the Bills. I think we've, as we said last week, the Bills are for real. I've come around on them, and I think that they're a good enough team with a good enough coach and a good enough leader in Josh Allen that they're going to be able to bounce back. The defense has been solid. Texans offense has definitely been good, but they're dealing with some injuries. I believe Tank Dell is now out for the season, or at least injured. And because of how good the Bills have looked so far this season, I really do like the bounce back spot here. I'm not as convinced that the Texans are as dominant of an offense as we were giving them credit for. Nico Collins has absolutely been great so far to start the year, but Joe Mixon still injured. I'm not sure if he's playing again this week. And again, if you look at the line, the Bills are favorites on the road. And that usually is telling something, again, they're saying a neutral site, Bills will be favored by 4 points here. I think the revenge factor of Stephon Diggs may be coming into play, right? The Bills were very upset, I think, at how he left the team. And I think they're going to be out for a vengeance on this game. So I'm riding with the Bills here on the road in a revenge spot for both teams. But I think that the Bills are going to get advantage on Diggs here.
So remember last week I said I'm done fading Josh Allen. Well, I picked the wrong spot, obviously. And the real story here is I'm done fading my own system, like I mentioned, and going with my gut. Last week, my gut was the Bills rolled the Ravens. It was the complete exact opposite, even though my numbers were telling me to play the Ravens. So a little tell on myself. But this game's kind of flipped, right? It started with Texan as a 1-point favorite. Now they're a dog. And maybe that was the early line that came out, before. So sometimes BroThrow pulls in. Maybe it was from last week, but it's kind of weird because the Bills just got completely rolled by the Ravens. They weren't able to do anything on offense. They could not stop the run. But, to be fair, who has stopped the run? Who's stopped Derrick Henry this year? I think both these teams are still strong. I think the Bills are the stronger team. They have more, veteran in Josh Allen. I'll take him over C.J. Stroud, who's been great, by the way, for being a sophomore. Had a great rookie season, rookie of the year. But I'm going to take Josh Allen here, and I'm going to take this defense over the Texans defense because, they've clearly shown already this year that, look at the Vikings game, who may be the best team in the NFL at this point, but they just absolutely rolled them as well. So that between that and the injuries that the Texans are facing, I mean, Joe Mixon may not play this week. Tank Dell, like you mentioned, left tackle Laramie Tunsil may be out, which I think is a really big deal. He's one of the best left tackles in the league. So you eliminate those players. You've eliminated some of their playmakers. You've eliminated some of their protection. And I think that even though it's probably priced into this line, I'm going to roll with the Bills with you.
Well, if you want to ride with us on the Bills or any other NFL game this weekend, go to brothrow.com/YouTube today to sign up to be able to place any bets. Every single bet on BroThrow is plus 100 odds. That's better odds than you'll find anywhere else on the market. So sign up today, brothrow.com/YouTube. Move on to the next game, Chad. Browns taking on Washington. And Washington, I think, is clearly the most surprising team so far this season. Rookie Jaden Daniels has been awesome so far. What are you seeing here with the Browns coming to town?
Well, I mean, so far, based on performance, it looks like the Commanders are the best team in the NFC East. I mean, they're certainly, at this point, better than the Cowboys, the Eagles. I don't know what's going on with them. And then you've got the Giants, bringing up the rear probably. So the first thing to mention is Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's been legitimate. He's a legitimate rookie quarterback who's been outstanding. He's kept his punter off the field for the majority of the season, making plays with his legs, his arm. But who they beaten, right? They beat the Giants, the Bengals, and the Cardinals. The Bengals have gotten better as the season's progressed, but the Cardinals I don't think are there. The Giants certainly aren't there, and now they play the first kind of real defense led by former Defensive Player of the Year and Myles Garrett. On top of that, Watson's key target Njoku's probably back. David Njoku at tight end. He's likely back this week. And when you go back and look at his numbers, I mean, this was a huge hit for the Browns when they lost Njoku after week 1. So I'm looking for a bounce back from him. And this is kind of a perfect spot, not only for maybe an upset, but this actually shows as the strongest play in my system. So I'm for sure going to bet the Browns this week.
Yeah, I think most of the public will probably be on Washington in this spot. Because as you said, Jaden Daniels has been just unbelievable. He looks like the clear favorite for Rookie of the Year, potentially an MVP candidate if he could keep this up. I mean, he had the single best passing percentage of any rookie quarterback in a single game in NFL history. Only 2 incompletions against the Bengals. And then Jared Goff went out and set the record last week with 0 incompletions against Seattle. But, because Washington has been so hot, I do think they're getting a little bit overrated. It does seem like they're due for a little bit of a down-to-earth type game. And going up against a great defense like the Browns with Myles Garrett and a lot of other guys, I don't think this one's going to be as easy for Washington. I kind of like the upset pick here, Browns, when I feel like the entire world will probably be on Washington. I'm siding with you here. And while Washington has probably been the most surprising team with the most surprising quarterback play, let's move on to one of the most surprising teams for bad quarterback play since Tua Tagovailoa has gotten injured. And I guess it's not surprising that Miami has kind of fallen off a cliff ever since Tua went down, but Skylar Thompson and Snoop Huntley have just been atrocious. And so I have to go with New England here at home. I mean, Tyler Huntley, it seemed like he could barely complete a pass downfield. There were times that Waddle and Hill were open in that Thursday night game, or the Monday night game, against Tennessee last week, and he just couldn't get them the ball. They had to resort to, Hill on end arounds, little dump offs in the backfield to A-Chain and Hill, and even then they could barely get the ball moving. New England's defense is not as good as Tennessee, but this is still a defensively focused team led by Gerard Mayo, a defensive guy. They have a solid cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. I'm not saying he's going to shut down Tyreek Hill, but if they're not able to throw the ball more than 5-10 yards on the field, I struggle to see how Miami is going to put up points here. You have an over-under of 36.5, and I would take the under here. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game, going to be based on field position, and honestly, I think that benefits New England here. I can't trust Miami in this spot until they get the QB position figured out, so give me the Patriots.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I know you hate to hear that, but the Patriots, they've been on a 3-game losing slide, but the Dolphins are essentially, like you said, they're without a quarterback. Huntley, every time there was any sign of pressure, he tucked the ball and ran, and he got smashed a lot. Like you mentioned, Tyreek Hill had at least 2 bombs that he was wide open. And if Tua's throwing the ball, or if any regular starters throw the ball, that's a completely different ball game. He's got 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on two catches. So, like you mentioned, if they can't get a quarterback, get better quarterback play either out of Huntley or bring someone in, or Tua comes back, which I think is probably honestly unlikely at this point. I think they're just going to continue to slide downhill. And it's just looking ugly. So this really isn't for me so much as a Pats play as it is a fade the Dolphins play. I haven't been impressed with the Patriots, putting the ball on the ground a lot, just having to play with their defense. And I think that's probably going to play this week.
Agree. This is definitely more of a fade the Dolphins spot for me as well. Let's move on to the last game for this video. Packers headed to Los Angeles, a home game for the Rams, but every home game for the Rams basically is a road game. So what do you see here? Jordan Love is back for the Packers. Can they get it done on the road?
Yeah, Jordan Love is almost back, right? He didn't quite look 100% last week to start the game, but he really got things going later, in the second half. He looked like he was a little bit timid, kind of favoring that knee, but they ended up coming back and almost winning outright, So the Packers really got it, going late and almost, like I mentioned, beat the Vikings, but the Vikings have looked like one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the best team in the NFL up to this point. But the Packers put up 475 yards of offense on that defense that's really shut down most everybody. The Packers, were one of the teams at the beginning of the season where we talked about, Jordan Love is a potential MVP favorite. So many weapons between, I think they've got 4 starting wide receivers that you just, for fantasy purposes, who are you going to start each week because he could spread the ball around so much. Meanwhile, the Rams are completely banged up. They're missing Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson, potentially, I'd say likely at this point, left tackle Eric Jackson. And they've given up 11 sacks in 3 games. So, Matt Stafford's getting up there in age. I don't know how much beating he can take. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and he showed us last week. But they're giving up the most yards to opposing running backs. And in the backfield for the Packers is Josh Jacobs, and we know he can move the ball. And so I think really, for me, this is just an easy Green Bay. Going to have too much firepower for this defense to stop.
Yeah, you hit it on the nose right there. The Rams are 32, dead last in the league at run yards allowed per game. And I say it every time we talk about the Packers. They are a run-first team. They want to use the run to set up the play action. And oh, by the way, the Rams are also dead last in yards per completion on defense. So if they're not able to stop the run, and then that's going to lead to the play action pass, I think the Packers could absolutely put a beating on them on offense. And the Rams defense is not very good. So I completely agree with you. I'm going to be riding the Packers here as well. And if you guys want to ride the Packers, the Bills, or any other games we talk about in this video, again, go to brothrow.com/YouTube now to sign up. Chad, anything else you want to mention before we end this video?
Yeah, I'm bringing in the big guns this week. Come here, Sonny. We're bringing in the big guns. We're going to have some luck this week. Come here, girl. Here she is. Yeah. She's getting old.
Excellent. Well, ride with the dogs with us, ride with the Chad, and we will see everybody in the next one.